Captain Vesra stood on the bridge of her battle station, watching another ship die. The explosion lit up the darkness like a brief, terrible star. That made 23 ships lost in the last hour, 23 crews who would never go home. Her feathers, usually bright blue, had dulled to gray over the past 47 days. That was how long the Zathran swarm had kept them trapped here. 47 days of watching her people die slowly, piece by piece. "Captain, they're moving again," her sensor officer called out. His voice shook. Everyone's voice shook now. On the main screen, the enemy fleet looked like a dark cloud. Hundreds of bioships, all organic and alive, all hungry. The Zathran were insect-like creatures that thought as one mind. They didn't negotiate. They didn't surrender. They consumed everything in their path. Vesra had fought in 3 wars during her career. She had won medals and respect. But this was different. This was a nightmare that wouldn't end. "How many ships do we have left?" she asked, though she already knew. 23, Captain. Most are damaged. Life support is failing on 7 of them. 23 ships. They had started with 200. The Zathran had barely lost 50. A transmission came through. Vesera recognized the voice immediately. It was her old friend, Commander Reltok, from the Marine water fleets. His people were aquatic, breathing through gills, and his ship was specially designed for his species. "Vesera," he said quietly. "My ship is dying. Hull breach in 3 sections. We can't fix it in time." She closed her eyes. "Get your crew to the escape pods." "The Zathran are jamming our launch systems. We're trapped." Her claws dug into her command chair. "I'll send someone." "No. You need every ship at the defense line. Don't waste resources on us." He paused. "Tell my clutch mates I fought well." The transmission ended. 2 minutes later, his ship's core exploded. Vesra wanted to scream. She wanted to cry, but she was a captain, and her crew needed her to be strong. Another officer approached. Lieutenant Kess, young and too idealistic for this war. "Captain, High Command just sent a message." "What do they say?" Kess hesitated. "They're not sending reinforcements. They recommend we surrender." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at her. Surrender to the Zathran meant worse than death. It meant being absorbed into their collective, losing all individuality, becoming part of the swarm. It meant watching yourself commit atrocities and being unable to stop. "No," Vesra said firmly. "We don't surrender. But, Captain, we protect the civilians still on the planet. Every hour we hold gives them time to evacuate deeper underground. We hold the line." The crew looked at her with a mixture of respect and despair. They all knew they were going to die here. Kess spoke up again, his voice soft. "There is one option, an old one." "What option?" "The ancient distress beacon, the one that sends signals to the dark zone." Vesra felt her stomach drop. The dark zone. Old human space. 300 years ago, humans had been leaders of the coalition. They were brilliant diplomats and terrifying warriors. They had led the galaxy to victory against the Krathnok Dominion in a war that lasted 50 years. But the war had cost them everything. Their home world, Earth, had been destroyed. Their colonies were burned. Billions of humans died. When the war finally ended, humanity sent one last message to the galaxy. "We're going dark. Don't follow us. Don't call us. We need time to heal." Then they vanished beyond mapped space, taking their advanced technology with them. Nobody had heard from them since. Most species thought humans were extinct now. Others believed they had simply abandoned the galaxy. Either way, the coalition had learned to survive without them. "The beacon won't work," Vesra said. "Even if humans still exist, they made it clear they want nothing to do with us." "Maybe," Kess said. "But what do we have to lose?" Vesera looked at the tactical display. The Zathran were massing for another attack. In a few hours, they would break through. The battle station would fall. The planet would be consumed. "Activate it," she ordered. The crew worked quickly. The old beacon was built into the station's core, a relic from the old days when humanity had been part of the coalition. It used quantum transmission technology that humans had invented, sending signals faster than light itself. "Beacon is active," Kess reported, "broadcasting on all human emergency frequencies." "How long until we get a response?" "If anyone is listening, could be minutes, could be never." Vesera nodded. She hadn't really expected anything else. 6 hours passed. The beacon transmitted continuously into the void. No response came. The Zathran launched their final assault. 400 bioships moved forward as one, blocking out the stars themselves. They fired acid projectiles that ate through shields and armor. They released spore clouds that infected ship systems. "All ships, fall back to the station," Vesera ordered. "Get the civilians into the core. We make our last stand here." Her crew rushed to obey. Parents with children ran through the corridors, heading to the reinforced center of the station. It wouldn't save them forever, but it might buy them a few more hours. Vesera stood at her post, watching death approach. Then her sensor officer shouted, "Captain, something's happening at the system's edge." "What is it?" "I don't know. There's a gravitational anomaly forming near the 9th planet. Space itself is bending." All eyes turned to the sensor displays. Something was out there in the darkness. Something big. Vesera felt a tiny spark of something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not hope, not quite, but maybe the beginning of it. She whispered into the silence, "Forgive us for calling." And in the endless dark beyond the outer planets, something began to take shape. Vesera remembered the first time she heard about humans. She had been a cadet, barely old enough to understand war. Her instructor, an old Keleth veteran with scars across his beak, had told stories about the Great War against the Krathnok. "The humans saved us all," he had said. "When the Krathnok swept through the outer systems, consuming everything, we thought it was the end. Then Terra joined the fight." The instructor's eyes had grown distant. "I saw a human commander once. Admiral Chen, I think his name was. He fought like he was dancing. Every move perfect, every decision right. He destroyed 3 Krathnok dreadnoughts with only 1 carrier group." Young Vesera had asked, "Where are the humans now?" The instructor's expression had turned sad. "Gone. The war cost them too much. They lost their homeworld, lost billions of their people. After we won, they just left." Now, decades later, standing on her dying station, Vesera wondered if those stories had been real or just legends. "Captain, the anomaly is growing," her sensor officer reported, pulling her back to the present. The gravitational distortion at the system's edge was getting stronger. Whatever was causing it, it was massive, but their sensors couldn't identify what it actually was. "Could it be a Zathran weapon?" Lieutenant Kess asked. "No," Vesera said. "This signature doesn't match their biotechnology. This is something else." The Zathran had noticed it too. Part of their fleet was breaking off, 50 bioships redirecting toward the anomaly. The hive mind was curious, or perhaps cautious. Vesera watched the tactical display. The 50 Zathran ships moved into position around the anomaly, weapons ready. They formed a perfect sphere, waiting. Then lights appeared in the darkness. Running lights, ship lights, the kind that vessels use to signal their presence. "What is that?" someone whispered. The lights spread out, defining an enormous shape. A ship was uncloaking, revealing itself piece by piece, but it wasn't just big, it was impossibly massive. "Sensors." "Give me a size estimate," Vesera ordered. The sensor officer's hands shook as he worked. "Captain, it's 14 kilometers long. Mass readings are... I don't even know how that's possible." 14 kilometers. The largest coalition ship ever built was 2 kilometers. This thing was 7 times bigger. Reading hull composition. Wait, this doesn't make sense. Parts of it are metallic, but other sections are showing organic signatures, and there are energy readings I've never seen before. The ship was scarred. Vesera could see that even from this distance. Burns and impacts covered its hull, evidence of old battles. But there was something else. New additions, modifications. This ship had been changed, upgraded, evolved. Can you identify it? I'm trying. The design is old, really old. Searching the database. The officer paused. Oh, ancestors. Captain, it matches human designs from 300 years ago, but modified, heavily modified. A human ship. The beacon had worked, but it was alone. One ship against 400. The Zathron broadcast came through, the collective voice of the hive mind speaking in many languages at once. Ancient ship. Dead species. You are alone. You will be consumed. The 50 Zathron bioships opened fire. Acid projectiles and biomissiles streaked toward the human vessel. The human ship didn't slow down. It didn't try to dodge. It accelerated straight toward them. What is it doing? Kess asked. It's going to... The human ship opened fire. Vesera had studied military history. She knew about human weapons, railguns that used magnetic acceleration to fire projectiles. She had seen videos from the old wars, but this was different. The railgun batteries lit up like stars. Tungsten rods, each one several tons of dense metal, launched at 30% the speed of light. They crossed the distance in seconds. When they hit the Zathron ships, there was no explosion. There was vaporization. The bioships simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the molecular level by the sheer kinetic energy. By the ancestors, Vesera breathed. More Zathron ships tried to close in. The human ship's point defense systems activated. Lasers created a web of light around the vessel, precisely cutting through acid projectiles and spores. Nothing got through. Then something incredible happened. The human ship's hull was damaged in one section, armor peeled back by a lucky Zathron hit. But as they watched, the hull began to heal. Organic material grew across the wound, sealing it. They're using biotechnology, the sensor officer said in shock. Human ships didn't have that before. They've adapted. They've taken Zathron biotech and made it their own. 4 minutes. That's how long it took the human ship to destroy all 50 Zathron vessels. Not a single shot had hit it hard enough to matter. The ship continued moving, heading straight for Kalar Prime, heading for them. A transmission came through, audio only. The voice was human, male, rough with age and experience. Kalar Prime, this is Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Confederacy Navy, TCNS Indomitable. We heard your beacon. Hold your position. Help is coming. Vesera's legs felt weak. Chen. That name. It couldn't be the same Chen from the old wars, could it? That was 300 years ago. She activated her comm. Captain Chen, this is Captain Vesera commanding Kalar Prime Station. We have 400 enemy vessels. Your ship is alone. I don't think... Captain, Chen interrupted, his voice calm. I've been fighting the Zathron for 270 years. Trust me. Hold the line for 15 more minutes. The transmission ended. Vesera looked at her crew. They were staring at her with wide eyes, hope and disbelief mixed together. You heard him, she said, trying to sound confident. Hold the line. 15 minutes. The human ship, Indomitable, was cutting through space toward them. The Zathron fleet was turning, all 400 ships focusing on this new threat. Vesera knew the math. One ship, even a massive one, couldn't win against those numbers. But she had seen what that ship could do, and she had heard the certainty in Chen's voice. Maybe, just maybe the old stories were true. Maybe humans were as terrifying and brilliant as the legends said. Maybe they hadn't lost yet. The Zathran swarm rushed forward to meet Indomitable. The battle for Kalar Prime was about to begin in earnest, and somewhere in the dark behind that human ship, space was beginning to bend again. Many times over, something else was coming. The Zathran swarm moved like a living thing, all 400 ships turning as one. They formed attack patterns that had defeated every coalition fleet they faced. Pincer movements, overwhelming fire from multiple angles, acid clouds that dissolved shields and armor. Vesera watched from her station as Indomitable plunged straight into the middle of their formation. It was either the bravest or most foolish thing she had ever seen. "What is he doing?" Lieutenant Kess asked. "That's suicide." But Captain Chen's voice came through again, this time on an open channel that all coalition ships could hear. "All coalition vessels, this is Chen. Listen carefully. I'm going to hit their formation from the center. When I do, their coordination will break for approximately 40 seconds. Use that time to target the ships I mark on your displays." Data packets started arriving on Vesera's tactical screen. Chen was sending them targeting information. Specific Zathran ships, highlighted in red. "These are their node ships," Chen continued. "They coordinate the swarm's movements. Kill these, and the rest will be confused. Can you do that?" Vesera looked at her weapons officer. The Kelith nodded, already programming the targets into their systems. "We can do it," Vesera transmitted back. "All coalition ships follow the humans' lead." Indomitable reached the center of the Zathran formation. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The ship spun, actually rotated on its axis while maintaining forward momentum. Its railguns fired in all directions at once, each barrel independently tracking targets. The tungsten rods punched through bioships like they were paper. At the same time, Indomitable launched fighters, small, sleek craft that moved with incredible precision. But these weren't piloted by humans. They moved too perfectly, coordinating in ways no organic being could manage. "Those are AI-controlled," Vesera realized. "Fully autonomous fighters." The Coalition had tried AI pilots once, decades ago. They had been good, but not good enough to replace living pilots. These were different. These moved like a single organism, each fighter knowing exactly where the others were, executing maneuvers that would have killed organic pilots with the G-forces involved. The Zathran tried to swarm Indomitable, overwhelming it with numbers. Bioships crashed into each other, trying to get close. Acid projectiles filled the space around the human vessel. But Indomitable's point defense was perfect. Every single shot was intercepted. Lasers fired with computer precision, destroying incoming fire milliseconds before impact. When acid managed to splash across the hull, the organic sections absorbed it, literally eating the acid and using it as fuel. "They've turned the Zathran's own weapons into an advantage," the sensor officer said in awe. Chen's voice came again, calm despite the chaos. "Now, Captain Vesera, hit those node ships. All weapons, fire." The Coalition fleet, battered and desperate, poured everything they had into the marked targets. The Zathran node ships tried to evade, but they were built for coordination, not agility. One by one, they exploded. And just as Chen had predicted, the swarm's coordination broke. Zathran ships collided with each other. Their attack patterns fell apart. For 40 precious seconds, they were vulnerable. Indomitable didn't waste the opportunity. Its main batteries fired again, each shot precisely placed. Not random firing, but surgical strikes. Chen was targeting specific ships, breaking the Zathran's ability to reform their swarm tactics. But the numbers were still against them. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. And Indomitable was taking damage now. Real damage. Hull breaches appeared, venting atmosphere. Armor plates were scorched and torn. The Zathran overmind, the collective intelligence controlling the swarm, broadcast again. This time there was something new in its voice. Satisfaction. "One old ship. Alone and dying. Where are your fleets, human?" Where is your vaunted terror? You came alone to die, noble but futile. The coalition crews felt their brief hope crumble. The Overmind was right. Indomitable had fought brilliantly, but it was just one ship. Already it was bleeding, weakening. In minutes it would fall, and then the Zathron would finish what they started. Vesra opened a channel to Chen. "Captain, you need to retreat. You've done enough. Get out while you can." Chen's response was a laugh. Not mocking, but genuine amusement. "Retreat? Captain Vesra, you misunderstand the situation." "What? I'm not here to retreat. I'm not even here to win. I'm here to deliver a message." "What message?" Chen's voice changed. It became cold, hard, carrying the weight of 3 centuries of loss and rage. He broadcast on all frequencies, making sure every ship in the system heard him, including the Zathron. "Overmind, you asked where Terra is. You asked where our fleets are. You think I'm alone?" He paused. "I'm not the fleet. I'm not the cavalry. I'm not the rescue force." Another pause, and Vesera could hear the smile in his voice. "I'm the warning." Behind Indomitable, space began to tear open. Not one anomaly, not 2, hundreds of them. Gravitational distortions appeared across the system's edge, each one pulling at reality itself. Ships were coming through, emerging from whatever hidden places humanity had retreated to 300 years ago. First came the destroyers, sleek and deadly, then the cruisers, bristling with weapons, then the battleships, massive and imposing, and finally, the carriers, each one launching wings of AI fighters. 300 ships appeared in the span of 60 seconds. Each one bore the name of a destroyed human world. Each one carried the memory of everything the Zathron's predecessors had taken from humanity. At the center of the fleet, a dreadnought even larger than Indomitable took position. Its hull was pristine, unlike Chen's battle-scarred vessel. This ship had been kept in reserve, maintained and upgraded, waiting for the moment it would be needed. A new voice transmitted across all channels, female carrying authority that made even Vesera straighten unconsciously. "Zathron Overmind, this is Fleet Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the Terran Confederacy Navy. You are currently in violation of the Kalar system's sovereignty. You have attacked coalition civilians. You have threatened species under our protection." The Admiral's voice hardened. "You have one opportunity to withdraw. Leave this system immediately, and we will allow you to retreat. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why humanity has spent 300 years preparing." The Zathron's response was predictable. The swarm had never retreated in its entire history. They broadcast their defiance and charged. It was the last mistake the Overmind would ever make. The human fleet opened fire as one, and Vesra watched the definition of overwhelming force rewrite itself before her eyes. The battle lasted 1 hour and 17 minutes. Vesera would remember every second of it for the rest of her life. The human fleet didn't fight like the coalition. Coalition tactics were about defense, about holding positions and wearing down enemies. Human tactics were aggressive, relentless, and terrifyingly efficient. They moved in perfect coordination. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was. Their firing patterns overlapped, creating fields of destruction that nothing could pass through. When Zathron bioships tried to swarm individual vessels, the humans simply adjusted, flowing around threats like water. "They're not fighting as individual ships," Vesra's tactical officer observed. "They're fighting as one organism, like the Zathran, but better." It was true. The human fleet moved with the precision of a hive mind, but retained the creativity and adaptability of individuals. It was the best of both approaches. Chen's voice came through again, still calm, now giving tactical advice to coalition forces. "Captain Vesera, form your ships into defensive position Beta 7 around the station. We'll push the swarm toward you. When they enter your firing range, hit them with everything. Don't worry about conserving ammunition. We'll resupply you. Understood, Vesera replied, ordering her ships into position. The human fleet executed a maneuver that seemed impossible. Half the fleet accelerated forward, drawing the Zathron's attention. The other half looped around, using the system's fourth planet for a gravity slingshot. They emerged behind the Zathron formation, catching them in a deadly crossfire. The Zathron tried to adapt, splitting their swarm to face both threats. But the humans had planned for that. As soon as the swarm divided, the human fleet concentrated fire on one half, overwhelming it with sheer firepower. Within minutes, half the Zathron force was destroyed. Vesera watched a human battleship take on 20 Zathron ships at once. Its shields flared under the assault, but they held. Its return fire was methodical, each shot placed to cause maximum damage. It didn't waste a single round. "How are they so good?" Lieutenant Kess asked, his voice full of wonder. Vesera understood now. "They've been fighting. For 300 years they've been fighting. Somewhere out in the dark, they've been at war, learning, adapting, perfecting their craft." Captain Chen confirmed it. "Lieutenant, humanity has spent the last 3 centuries dealing with threats in deep space. Threats you've never heard of. The Zathron are dangerous, yes, but we've faced worse." The Zathron overmind, for the first time in the battle, showed something that might have been fear. Its broadcast was no longer confident. "Impossible. You are one species. We are the swarm. We are inevitable. We have consumed 1,000 worlds." Admiral Okonkwo's response was ice cold. "And we are the species that lost our home world and survived. We are the species that was broken and rebuilt ourselves stronger. You consume worlds? We avenge them." The human fleet pressed the attack. Their AI fighters were everywhere, too fast for the Zathron to target effectively. They struck at vulnerable points, engines and weapons systems, crippling bioships without destroying them. "They're being precise," the sensor officer noted. "They could just obliterate everything, but they're taking time to disable ships." Vesera realized what they were doing. They're studying them, learning Zathron weaknesses in real time and sharing that data across the fleet. Every human ship was learning from every engagement, and that knowledge was instantly distributed. The fleet was getting better at fighting Zathron even as the battle continued. The Zathron tried one final desperate move. They gathered their remaining 200 ships into a tight formation and charged directly at Admiral Okonkwo's flagship. It was a suicide run, hoping to take the Admiral with them. The human response was devastating. Chen's Indomitable, despite its damage, moved to intercept. "Admiral, permission to engage." "Granted, Captain. Show them what old warriors can do." Indomitable, scarred and bleeding, accelerated into the Zathron charge. Its railguns fired continuously, never stopping, each shot perfectly placed. The ship's biohull was regenerating even as it fought, wounds closing in real time. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet converged. They created a wall of fire that nothing could penetrate. The Zathron formation broke. Ships tried to scatter, tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. Human ships were everywhere, cutting off every retreat. The Zathron overmind broadcast one final message. It was different from before. There was no confidence, no arrogance, just confusion and something that might have been respect. "How? How did you become this?" Chen answered, and his voice carried the weight of loss and determination. "You want to know how? We lost everything. Our home, our people, our future. We went into the dark and we asked ourselves one question. Will we let this happen again?" He paused. The answer was no. Never again. We rebuilt ourselves. We made ourselves strong enough that no one could ever take our home again. We found threats in the deep dark, and we fought them. We learned from every battle, every loss, every victory. We spent 300 years becoming what we needed to be. And what is that? The Overmind asked. Guardians, protectors, the shield that stands between innocents and those who would harm them. The last Zathran ships were destroyed or disabled. The swarm that had terrorized Coalition space for months was broken in just over an hour. But the humans didn't celebrate. They immediately began rescue operations, pulling Coalition survivors from damaged ships, providing medical aid, distributing supplies. Admiral Okonkwo broadcast to the entire system. All Coalition vessels, this is Terra. The immediate threat has passed. Medical ships are standing by. We'll help evacuate civilians from the planet and repair your damaged vessels. She paused. You called, and we answered. That's what allies do. Vesra felt tears running down her face. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. A transmission came directly to her, Chen's voice, tired now that the battle was over. Captain Vesra, permission to come aboard your station. We should talk. Permission granted, Captain Chen, and thank you. Thank us by surviving the next 300 years, Chen replied. The galaxy needs good people like you. The human fleet took up defensive positions around Kalar Prime, not occupying, protecting. And Vesera knew that the galaxy had just changed forever. Humanity had returned. Captain Chen arrived on Kalar Prime Station 12 hours after the battle ended. Vesera waited for him at the docking bay with her senior officers. She wasn't sure what to expect. The legends described humans as similar to her own people in some ways, but it had been 300 years. They could have changed completely. The airlock opened, and Chen stepped through. He was tall, like the old records described. But that was where the similarity to ancient images ended. Half his face was covered in cybernetic implants. Silver metal seamlessly integrated with flesh. One eye was organic, brown and warm. The other glowed with a soft blue light. His right arm was fully mechanical from the shoulder down, but it moved with organic fluidity. He walked with a slight limp, and Vesra could see more scars, both organic and mechanical, covering every visible part of him. This was a man who had been broken and rebuilt many times. But when he smiled, it was genuine. Captain Vesra, it's an honor to meet you. You held that line with 23 ships against impossible odds. That takes courage. Vesra gestured to her crew. We did what we had to. But you, Captain Chen, the records say there was an Admiral Chen in the old wars, 300 years ago. Chen's smile turned sad. That was my great-great-grandfather. I was named after him. The name Chen has served in the Terran Navy for 15 generations now. 15 generations of war? Of preparation, Chen corrected gently. Come, let me explain what humanity has become. They walked to a conference room. Chen moved carefully, favoring his left leg. Battle damage from the fight, Vesra realized. Even now, he was still healing. Once seated, Chen began. When we left Coalition space 300 years ago, we were broken. Earth was destroyed. Our colonies were burned. We had won the war against the Krathnok. But the cost was almost everything we had. He touched his cybernetic eye unconsciously. We decided we would never be that vulnerable again. So we went into deep space beyond mapped territory, and we rebuilt. Not just our ships and weapons, ourselves. The cybernetics? Lieutenant Kess asked. Part of it. We integrated biotechnology from species we encountered. We developed AI that could work with us, not replace us. We extended our lifespans, enhanced our bodies, connected our minds through quantum networks. Chen looked at his mechanical arm. I'm 247 years old. I've spent most of that time in war. Vesera felt her stomach drop. 247? But that means I've been fighting since before you were born, yes. Most of our fleet commanders have similar experience. We don't just train for war anymore. We live it, learn it, breathe it. Fighting who? Vesra asked. What's out there in the dark? Chen's expression grew grim. Things that make the Zathran look tame. The Void Collective, a race of energy beings that feed on stars. The Silicon Hives, machine intelligences that convert entire solar systems into processing power. The Endless Hunger, a biological plague that spreads between dimensions. He leaned forward. We've been fighting these threats for 3 centuries, keeping them away from civilized space. From you. The Zathran are aggressive, yes, but they're containable. The things we fight are apocalyptic. Why didn't you tell us? Vesra asked. Why hide this from the Coalition? Because you weren't ready. You're still not really, but you're learning. Chen's organic eye studied her. You activated that beacon knowing we probably wouldn't come. You chose to fight impossible odds rather than surrender. That's the spirit we need from our allies. A hologram appeared above the table, showing Admiral Okonkwo. She nodded to Vesera. Captain, I'm Sarah Okonkwo. I wanted to join this conversation. Admiral, Vesera said respectfully. What happens now? Now we talk, Okonkwo said. Humanity is returning to the galactic community, not as conquerors but as partners. We'll share our technology, our knowledge, our protection. In exchange for what? Lieutenant Kess asked suspiciously. Okonkwo smiled. In exchange for standing together. The threats Chen described are real, and they're getting closer to Coalition space. In another century, maybe less, they'll arrive. When they do, we need to be ready. All of us. There are conditions, Chen added. Humanity will operate independently. We won't answer to Coalition High Command. We've learned hard lessons about bureaucracy and politics getting in the way of survival. We'll coordinate with you, share intelligence, fight beside you. But we make our own strategic decisions. That seems reasonable, Vesera said slowly. What about technology sharing? Okonkwo nodded. We'll provide defensive technology first. Better shields, advanced medical treatments, improved FTL drives. Weapons technology will come later, once we're sure it won't be misused. We remember what happened with the Krathnok. We gave them jump drive technology, and they used it to wage war. We won't make that mistake again, Chen said firmly. We'll help you become strong enough to defend yourselves. But we'll be watching. The conversation continued for hours. They discussed trade agreements, technology transfers, military coordination. Through it all, Vesera watched Chen carefully. He was patient, thoughtful, and clearly experienced in negotiation. But underneath it all, she sensed sadness. Finally, she asked him directly. Captain Chen, are you happy? Has all this preparation, all this fighting been worth it? Chen was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if happiness is something soldiers like me get to have anymore. But purpose? Yes, I have that. Knowing that Earth's children are out there, living free, exploring the stars, that's worth every scar, every battle, every loss. He looked at her with his mismatched eyes. We became what we needed to be. Not what we wanted to be, maybe, but what the galaxy needed us to be. 3 days later, Vesera stood on the observation deck, watching the human fleet maintain position around Kalar Prime. They hadn't left. Chen had said they would stay until Coalition reinforcements arrived and the system was fully secure. Below, on the planet's surface, human medical teams were helping treat injured civilians. Human engineers were repairing damaged infrastructure. They worked efficiently, professionally, asking for nothing in return. Lieutenant Kess joined her. What do you think of them? I think they're different from the humans in the old records, Vesera said. Harder, more dangerous, but also more committed, Kess finished. They really mean it, about protecting others. Yes. Vesera watched a human medical ship dock with the station. They lost everything and it changed them, made them stronger but also more determined to prevent others from suffering the same loss. She pulled up a holographic display showing the outer edges of known space, the dark zone where humans had spent 3 centuries. I wonder what else is out there. What other threats are coming? Whatever they are, Kess said. At least now we won't face them alone. A transmission came through. Chen's voice, warm despite everything. Captain Vesera, we're detecting movement in deep space. Zathran reinforcements attempting to regroup. We're going after them. We'll be back in a few days. Understood, Captain. Good hunting. One more thing, Chen added. High Command is sending representatives to meet with the Coalition Council. They'll discuss formal alliance terms. I think you should be there. You understand what's at stake better than most. Vesera felt honored. I'll be there. Good. Terra out. The human fleet began to move, organizing into formation. They slipped into faster-than-light travel, vanishing like ghosts. Vesera recorded a personal log entry. Today marks the beginning of a new era. Humanity has returned, but they're not the same species that left. They're warriors now, guardians, shaped by 3 centuries of darkness and conflict. They're stronger, stranger, and perhaps a bit frightening. But when we called from the depths of despair, they answered. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. They came out of the endless dark, and they saved us. Not because they had to, because it was right. Because they remember what it's like to lose everything. I believe we can trust them. I believe we must trust them. The galaxy is more dangerous than we knew, and we'll need their strength in the days ahead. She looked out at the stars. Whatever comes next, at least we won't face it alone. Far away, in unmapped space, a Zathran hive received a transmission, a human voice, cold and precise. You touched what we protect. You threatened innocence under our watch. This is your only warning. Leave this region of space, or we will come for you. Not with one fleet, not with one battle. We will hunt every ship, every colony, every trace of your swarm until nothing remains. The transmission ended with 5 simple words. Terra remembers, Terra protects, Terra endures. The message was received. The swarm began to retreat, and in Coalition space, a new chapter of galactic history began.
Commander Elaine Russell stared through the viewport of the North American Space Command Station. The stars looked different today. A massive ship hung against the backdrop of space, its sleek metal skin reflecting Earth's blue glow. After decades of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. Commander Russell, they're requesting to speak with you directly, said Lieutenant Samantha Oakes, her voice steady despite the historic moment unfolding before them. Elaine took a deep breath. At 42, she never imagined she would be humanity's first official contact with alien life. Her short brown hair was neatly tucked behind her ears, her uniform pressed and perfect. History would remember this moment. Open the channel, she said. The screen flickered to life. The alien had gray-blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. Behind him stood representatives of 6 other species, each unique in appearance, but sharing the same air of advanced civilization. I am High Delegate, Zorax of the Ventari, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Conclave, the alien said in perfect English. We have been observing your world for some time and believe Earth is ready to join our community of worlds. Elaine maintained her composure. Earth is honored by your presence, High Delegate. I am Commander Elaine Russell, representing the North American Space Command. The conversation continued for hours. The aliens explained they were an alliance of 7 advanced species who had united centuries ago to explore the stars together. They offered friendship, technology, and protection in exchange for Earth joining their alliance. 2 weeks later, after this initial contact, Elaine sat in a conference room with world leaders and scientists. The aliens had provided translation. devices that allowed perfect communication. Their technology is at least 1,000 years ahead of ours, said Dr. Alan Wright, a linguist and cryptographer assigned to the first contact team. He was tall and lanky, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. The medical advancements alone could eliminate disease on Earth, and their energy production methods would solve our climate crisis overnight, added Olivia Martinez, the brilliant engineer who had been studying the technical information shared by the conclave. President Carla Winters nodded thoughtfully. The benefits seem obvious, but we need to proceed carefully. Commander Russell, you've spent the most time with them. What's your assessment? Elaine considered her words carefully. They appear genuine in their offers. However, I recommend we take things slowly. There's a lot we don't know about their culture and true intentions. The meeting concluded with a decision to continue diplomatic relations with the conclave. Elaine was named Earth's official representative to the aliens, with Dr. Wright and Lieutenant Oakes as part of her team. Meanwhile, aboard the conclave mothership orbiting Earth, a different meeting was taking place. The 7 representatives gathered around a circular table, speaking in their native tongue. The humans are primitive but advancing quickly, said Zorax. Their planet is rich in resources, and their population would make excellent workers. Another, alien with insect-like features, clicked in agreement. Their technological progress is impressive for such a young species, but they remain centuries behind us. They pose no threat. I propose we classify Earth as a Category 3 world, said a third representative whose skin shifted colors as it spoke. We begin with friendship, offer them limited technology, and gradually make them dependent on us before they realize what's happening. Zorax nodded. Their fractured political system makes them vulnerable. They compete against each other even now, each nation hoping to gain favor with us. Only one delegate, Vilas of the Mariacs, opposed the plan. The humans show remarkable adaptability and creativity. We should offer them true partnership. Your species has always been too sentimental, Vilas, Zorax said dismissively. Let us vote. 6 lights turned green around the table. Only Vilas's remained red. It is decided, announced Zorax. Earth will be prepared for integration into our labor force. Within 5 years, they will serve the conclave without question. Back on Earth, Dr. Alan Wright worked late in his lab. Something had been bothering him about the translation matrix the aliens had provided. Words had subtle meanings that didn't quite match up. At first, he thought it was just the complexity of translating between entirely different languages. Now he wasn't so sure. He input a series of phrases into the system, watching carefully how they transformed. Then he noticed a pattern. Certain concepts were being deliberately mistranslated. The conclave's word for alliance shared root structures, with their terms for ownership and control. His door opened and Lieutenant Oakes entered with 2 cups of coffee. You're working late again, she said, setting 1 cup beside him. Alan ran his hand through his disheveled hair. Something's not right with these translations. Look at this. Samantha leaned over his shoulder, her dark eyes scanning the screen. With her photographic memory, she had already memorized large portions of the alien language. That can't be right, she said, frowning. According to this, when they say cultural exchange, the root structure is closer to cultural replacement. Alan nodded grimly. I think we need to start our own translation project separate from their system, and we need to keep it quiet. For the next month, they worked in secret. Alan created a program to decode the aliens' actual communications while Samantha used her perfect recall to identify patterns. They discovered that the conclave representatives were reporting back to their leadership, describing humans as simple and easily manipulated. One night they intercepted a transmission that confirmed their worst fears. Earth has been classified as a Category 3 acquisition, Alan translated, his face pale. They're not here as friends. They're here to enslave us. Samantha's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her secure phone. We need to tell Commander Russell immediately. Elaine arrived at the lab within the hour. She looked at their evidence in silence, her expression growing darker with each revelation. We need to be absolutely certain before we take this to the President, she finally said. If we're wrong, we could ruin humanity's greatest opportunity. We're not wrong, Alan said firmly. I've triple-checked everything. The Conclave has done this before to at least 12 other worlds. They offer technology and protection, create dependency, and then slowly take control. Elaine stared out the window at the stars, where the massive Conclave ship now appeared as a threatening shadow against the night sky. Then we're already at war, she said quietly. And the enemy thinks we don't even know it yet. She turned back to them, her eyes filled with determination. That's our advantage. They think we're simple and easily controlled. We'll let them keep thinking that while we prepare. Prepare for what? Asked Samantha. To show them exactly how dangerous humans can be when fighting for their freedom, Elaine replied. As dawn broke over Earth, the three of them began planning humanity's secret resistance against an enemy that had conquered dozens of worlds. The Conclave had no idea that their carefully laid plans were already beginning to unravel. 6 months passed since the arrival of the Galactic Conclave. Earth governments had signed agreements with the aliens, and people celebrated in the streets. The Conclave provided new medical technology that cured several diseases. They also shared clean energy systems that replaced polluting power plants. Most humans believed they were entering a golden age. Dr. Alan Wright knew better. He worked day and night in a hidden lab beneath the North American Space Command headquarters. The room was filled with computers and alien devices he had secretly modified. Lieutenant Samantha Oakes stood guard at the door while Commander Elaine Russell studied the information on the main screen. We've cracked more of their communications, Alan said, pointing to the translated text. The Conclave calls this Phase 1, giving us just enough technology to make us trust them while making us dependent on their knowledge to maintain it. Elaine's face hardened as she read. According to this, they've done the same thing to 12 other civilizations. All of them are now slave worlds providing resources and labor to the Conclave. Samantha joined them at the screen. Look at this part. It says humans are particularly valuable because we adapt quickly and can work in many different environments. Alan nodded grimly. They plan to start moving humans off-world next year as cultural exchange workers. In reality, they'll be sending us to labor camps. We need to expand our group, Elaine decided. We need more people we can trust. The next day, they met in a secure room with NASA Director Gregory Patel, a calm man with steady hands and a brilliant mind, and Marine Colonel Frank Daniels, whose battle experience and tactical knowledge would be essential. I've suspected something was off about these aliens, Gregory said after seeing their evidence. The technology they're sharing is impressive but carefully limited. Nothing that would help us defend ourselves or travel independently through space. Colonel Daniels pounded, his fist on the table. We should alert the president and prepare for war immediately. No, Elaine said firmly. If we reveal what we know now, we'll lose our only advantage. Surprise. The Conclave's weapons technology is far beyond ours. We'd be crushed in an open conflict. Then what do you propose? Asked Daniels. A covert operation, she replied. We call it Operation Trojan Horse. We pretend to be the simple, grateful humans they expect while secretly preparing to resist. They spent hours planning. Daniels would quietly identify and train soldiers who could be trusted. Gregory would gather scientists to study and reverse engineer Conclave technology. Elaine would continue her role as Earth's representative, gathering intelligence from within the alien leadership. We need someone who truly understands their technology, Gregory pointed out. Someone brilliant. I know exactly who we need, Alan said. The next day, Olivia Martinez arrived at their hidden facility. She was a genius engineer with wild, curly hair and a mind that could solve problems others couldn't even understand. After seeing the evidence, she immediately agreed to help. Their technology is advanced, but not magic, Olivia said, examining an alien device. Give me time and I can figure out how it works. Over the next few weeks, Olivia made an incredible discovery. Human neural patterns are unique, she explained to the group, excitement in her voice. Our brains can interface with their technology in ways the aliens never anticipated. She demonstrated by connecting a modified neural interface to her temple. The alien device in front of her activated, responding to her thoughts in ways it wasn't designed to do. They built their systems with safeguards against unauthorized users, she explained. But they never accounted for how human brains process information differently. We can bypass their security measures. This breakthrough changed everything. Operation Trojan Horse expanded rapidly but carefully. They recruited trustworthy individuals from around the world, scientists, soldiers, engineers, and others who could help without raising suspicion. 1 year after first contact, the conclave began Phase 2. They established administrative centers in major cities around the world. These huge buildings housed alien representatives who would help guide human development. In reality, they were control centers. At the same time, the first groups of humans left Earth to work on conclave facilities throughout the solar system. The aliens presented this as a great honor and opportunity. The workers were actually selected based on physical strength and obedience. What the conclave didn't know was that many of these workers were secretly part of Operation Trojan Horse. They had neural implants designed by Olivia that looked like standard medical devices, but actually allowed them to gather intelligence and communicate securely. Colonel Daniels personally trained many of these operatives. Remember, he told them before they departed, act humble and grateful. Learn everything you can about their systems, their weaknesses, their routines. Memorize the layout of every facility. Your knowledge will save Earth. Meanwhile, Elaine continued her diplomatic role. The aliens invited her to visit the Conclave Central Command ship. This was a rare honor, as few non-conclave members had ever been allowed aboard. She accepted with apparent gratitude. The massive ship was a city, in space, housing thousands of aliens from the 7 ruling species. Elaine was given a tour by High Delegate Zorax himself. You see how smoothly different species work together under conclave guidance, Zorax said proudly as they walked through a massive control center. This is the future Earth will enjoy. Elaine noticed how the supposedly equal alliance was clearly stratified. The 7 ruling species gave orders, while members of the allied worlds performed the actual labor. They moved with the robotic efficiency of beings whose wills had been broken. It's very impressive, she lied, memorizing the layout and security measures. That night in her private quarters aboard the ship, she used one of Olivia's devices to scan for surveillance. Finding none, she activated a secure communication link. To Earth. I'm in position, she reported to Alan. The central command hub is exactly where we thought. Their quantum entanglement network is accessible from here. Perfect, Alan replied. Olivia has nearly completed the disruption device. When it's ready, you'll need to plant it at the primary node. I'll be ready, Elaine promised. How are the off-world operations going? Better than expected. Humans are being placed in critical positions throughout their facilities. The Conclave thinks we're just good workers, but we're mapping every weakness in their system. As they spoke, thousands of humans throughout the solar system were secretly preparing. On Mars, in the asteroid mining operations aboard space stations, everywhere the Conclave had sent human workers, resistance grew. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had judged humanity by its apparent technological level, not by its adaptability, creativity, or fierce desire for freedom. They thought humans would be grateful for the scraps from their advanced civilization. They never suspected that the apparently simple humans were already planning to bring down their entire empire. When Elaine ended the communication, she stood at the viewport of her quarters looking at the stars. Somewhere out there were 12 enslaved civilizations waiting for freedom. Earth would not be the 13th. You voted to enslave us, she whispered to the silent stars. Your mistake. 2 years after the arrival of the Conclave, Earth appeared to be following the aliens' plan perfectly. Humans worked in mines on Mars, processed rare materials on the moons of Jupiter, and served in Conclave manufacturing centers throughout the solar system. From the aliens' perspective, humans were ideal workers, adaptable, quick to learn, and seemingly grateful for the opportunity. In the Grand Hall of the Conclave's Earth headquarters in Geneva, High Delegate Zorax addressed the gathered alien representatives. The sleek room hummed with advanced technology as holographic displays showed human work camps across the solar system. Phase 2 progresses ahead of schedule, Zorax announced proudly. Humans adapt to off-world conditions 30% faster than we projected. Their productivity exceeds that of the Trillari and Vondar at similar stages of integration. A blue-skinned alien with 4 arms raised an appendage. What about resistance? The psychological profile suggested humans might be unusually attached to concepts of independence. Zorax made a dismissive gesture. Minimal. Some primitive nations expressed concerns initially, but the benefits of our technology silenced them. Humans are focused on immediate rewards and lack the unity to mount any meaningful opposition. Only Vilas, the Mariax delegate who had voted against enslaving Earth, looked troubled. I continue to advise caution. There is something about these humans that doesn't fit our usual patterns. Your concerns are noted but unnecessary, Zorax replied coldly. In 6 months we begin Phase 3, neural compliance. After that, even the concept of resistance will be foreign to them. Unknown to the Conclave, Operation Trojan Horse had grown into a vast underground network. In a hidden facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Colonel Frank Daniels stood before a group of soldiers from dozens of nations. Once they would have been enemies. Now they trained together for humanity's survival. The aliens think we're primitive because we still fight each other, Frank told them. They don't understand that knowing how to fight is exactly what makes us dangerous. Every war in our history has taught us something they never had to learn. In another section of the facility, Olivia Martinez worked with a team of engineers from around the world. The room was filled with hybrid technology, part human, part alien, unlike anything the Conclave had ever seen. Our neural interfaces are ready, Olivia announced, holding up a small device that could be easily hidden under hair or clothing. Once installed, our people can access and control Conclave systems without detection. Dr. Alan Wright entered, the room with Lieutenant Samantha Oakes. Over the past 2 years, they had built the most comprehensive understanding of the Conclave's empire that anyone outside the alien leadership possessed. We've identified their critical weakness, Alan said, activating a holographic display of his own design. The entire Conclave empire runs on a quantum entanglement network. All commands flow from central hubs to their subordinates. It's incredibly efficient but also vulnerable. Samantha pointed to specific nodes on the display. If we can disrupt these key points simultaneously, their entire command structure will collapse. It would be chaos. How many points? Asked Frank. 17, Alan replied. Spread across 3 star systems, Frank frowned. Impossible. We don't have faster than light travel. We can't coordinate attacks across multiple star systems, Olivia smiled. We don't need it. The Conclave's own communication network will be our weapon. We've modified their quantum entanglement technology. When activated, our devices will create a cascading disruption throughout their entire network. Meanwhile, in space, human workers on a Conclave mining station orbiting Jupiter's moon Callisto gathered in secret. They looked like ordinary laborers, tired after a long shift, but each wore Olivia's neural interface disguised as a standard medical monitor. Lisa Bell, a geologist, who had volunteered for off-world work specifically to join the resistance, addressed the group. The Conclave is moving up their timeline. Neural compliance devices are being prepared. Once they're activated, we'll lose our free will. The workers exchanged worried glances. Neural compliance was the final stage of Conclave control. Direct manipulation of the brain to ensure absolute obedience. How long do we have? Asked Bill Conway, a former construction worker now trained in sabotage techniques. 3 weeks, Lisa replied. They're already loading the devices onto ships. We need to alert Earth Command immediately. Back on Earth, Commander Elaine Russell received the urgent message during a Conclave reception. She maintained her pleasant expression while talking with alien dignitaries, but inside she felt cold fear. 3 weeks was not enough time. They had planned for 3 months at minimum. She excused herself politely and found a secure location to contact the underground headquarters. We have to move now, she told the gathered resistance leaders. Ready or not, this is our only chance. Colonel Daniels shook his head. Some of our teams aren't in position yet. The Mars contingent needs at least 2 more weeks. There's no time, Elaine insisted. Once those neural devices are activated, we lose everything. Dr. Wright studied the data. If we accelerate the timetable, we'd have to rely heavily on the teams already in place at the key facilities. Our success rate drops from 94% to 71%. Those are still good odds, Olivia said. And we have an advantage they don't expect: human unpredictability. For 2 years, the humans selected for off-world service had been carefully chosen. Many were former military personnel or had skills useful to the resistance. While appearing to be model workers, they had been mapping conclave facilities, identifying weaknesses, and preparing for this moment. The plan was set in motion. Coded messages traveled through the resistance network. The date was set for exactly 1 week later, just days before the neural compliance devices would arrive. Meanwhile, Commander Russell returned to her role as Earth's representative. She was scheduled to travel to the Conclave Central Command ship for a diplomatic ceremony. This time she wouldn't be going alone. Her service staff would include 6 highly trained operatives disguised as assistants and servants. On the night before her departure, Elaine met with her core team last time. Once this begins, there's no going back, she told them. If we fail, Earth falls forever. If we succeed, we free not just ourselves, but 12 other enslaved species. The Conclave has existed for thousands of years, Alan said quietly. They've never been challenged like this. That's their weakness, Samantha replied. They've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. Olivia handed Elaine a small device that looked like an ordinary piece of jewelry. This is the master. Control for the network disruption. Once you're in position at Central Command, activate it. Every resistance member across the system will receive the signal to begin. Elaine carefully placed the device on her wrist. They thought we were simple creatures they could control. They're about to learn how dangerous humans can be. As her ship prepared for departure the next morning, thousands of humans throughout the solar system made final preparations. Weapons were hidden, plans reviewed, and positions secured. On the surface, everything appeared normal. The Conclave's monitors showed nothing unusual. The aliens had no idea that humanity's chains were about to be broken. Commander Elaine Russell stood tall as her ship docked with the Conclave's massive Central Command station. Through the viewport, she could see the heart of the alien empire, a structure larger than any city on Earth, housing the leadership that controlled hundreds of worlds. Her heart beat faster, but her face showed only pleasant respect. "Ready?" she asked quietly. Behind her, 6 resistance members disguised as her service staff nodded slightly. They appeared to be ordinary assistants carrying luggage and equipment, but each was a highly trained operative. Their neural interfaces, hidden beneath their hair or skin, allowed them to communicate silently and would soon let them access Conclave systems. As they disembarked, High Delegate Zorax greeted them with what passed for a smile among his species. "Commander Russell, welcome back. We are pleased you will witness the ceremony marking Earth's transition to Phase 3 status." "It's an honor," Elaine replied, bowing slightly. Earth is grateful for the Conclave's guidance. She was escorted to luxurious guest quarters, while her staff was directed to servant areas. According to the plan, they would map critical systems and prepare for the signal. Elaine had just 12 hours before the ceremony, and before the neural compliance devices would begin shipping to Earth. Throughout the solar system, human resistance members moved into position. On Mars Colony 1, Bill Harris finished his mining shift and walked casually toward the Environmental Control Center. The Conclave guards nodded to him, just another human worker heading to the showers. They didn't notice the small device hidden in his palm. On Europa Base, Dr. Susan Lane administered routine medical checks to her fellow humans. The Conclave valued her for keeping the workers healthy and productive. They didn't realize she was secretly installing the final components of Olivia's neural interface in each human who passed through her office. Above Earth, on the massive orbital platform that served as the Conclave's planetary headquarters, Peter Mason cleaned the floors of the main control room. The aliens barely noticed him, just part of the maintenance staff. They never saw him memorizing the layout of every control panel, every security station, every access point. Back on Earth, Colonel Frank Daniels addressed the gathered resistance, forces in their underground base. In 10 hours, Command Russell will send the signal. Every conclave facility across the system will face simultaneous action. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Dr. Alan Wright monitored, communications with Samantha Oakes beside him. All teams are in position, he reported. 73% of our people have confirmed readiness. Is that enough? Frank asked. It has to be, replied Olivia Martinez, making final adjustments to the central communication system. We won't get another chance. On the conclave. Command station. Elaine attended a diplomatic dinner. Alien representatives from all 7 ruling species discussed Earth's progress in pleasant, condescending tones. They spoke of humans as promising servants, almost like proud owners discussing a clever pet. Elaine smiled and thanked them for their wisdom while memorizing faces and names. These were the beings who had voted to enslave her world. She would remember each one. In her quarters later that night, she received the confirmation she'd been waiting for. Her team had successfully mapped the command station's critical systems. All resistance cells across the solar system were ready. It was time. She activated the small device on her wrist. It looked like a simple bracelet but contained Olivia's most advanced technology. A signal, invisible to conclave detection systems, spread through their own quantum network. Across the solar system, human resistance members received the message. Operation Trojan Horse begins now. The uprising started simultaneously across 17 conclave facilities spanning 3 star systems. On Mars, Bill Harris inserted his device into the environmental control system. Instead of releasing the toxic gas that would have killed the human workers as the conclave had planned once neural compliance began, he redirected it into the alien quarters. The surprised conclave administrators fell unconscious within minutes. On Europa, Dr. Susan Lane activated the neural interfaces. Suddenly, every human worker could access conclave systems directly with their thoughts. Security doors opened, weapons lockers unlocked, communication systems fell under human control. In Earth orbit, Peter Mason moved from janitor to commander in seconds. His neural interface gave him control of the station's defense systems. When conclave ships tried to respond to distress calls, they found their own weapons disabled. The aliens were completely unprepared. For thousands of years they had conquered through technology and subterfuge, not direct conflict. The concept that humans might fight back effectively had never seriously entered their calculations. On the central command station, alarms blared. Zorax rushed into the control room, his normally gray-blue skin pale with shock. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Simultaneous uprisings across the system," reported a frantic subordinate. "Communications are failing. Defense systems are not responding." Impossible. How could primitive humans coordinate such an attack? At that moment, the doors slid open. Commander Elaine Russell walked in, surrounded by her service staff, all now openly carrying weapons. "You made a fundamental mistake," she told the stunned Zorax. "You judged us by our technology, not by what makes humans truly dangerous. Our adaptability, our creativity, and our absolute refusal to be enslaved." Across the room, conclave officers reached for weapons, but found them unresponsive. The humans' neural interfaces had taken control of the station's security systems. "How?" Zorax asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "Our technology is centuries beyond yours." "And now it's ours," Elaine replied. She touched her neural interface. Suddenly, every screen in the control room showed images from across the solar system. Humans had taken control of mines, research stations, manufacturing centers, and ships. "You believed we were simple creatures who would accept your guidance with gratitude," she continued. "You never bothered to understand what humans are capable of when fighting for freedom." Meanwhile, in the central quantum network hub of the station, 2 of Elaine's team worked quickly. They installed Olivia's disruption device at the primary node of the conclave's empire-wide communication system. When activated, It would create a cascading failure throughout their entire command structure. "The device is ready," one of them reported through the neural link. Elaine looked directly at Zorax. "There's something else you should know. Your allied worlds, the 12 species you've already enslaved, we've been communicating with them too. On dozens of planets throughout conclave space, the enslaved species had received instructions from Earth, the methods to disable their neural compliance devices, the locations of critical conclave control centers, the exact time to act. As Elaine gave the signal to activate the disruption device, rebellions erupted across the conclave empire. Species that had been servile for generations suddenly broke their chains. The mighty conclave, which had ruled through fear and technology for thousands of years, faced something they had never prepared for: a coordinated, multi-species uprising led by the humans they had so gravely underestimated. In the control room, Zorax sank to his knees as reports of lost facilities flooded in faster than he could process them. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No," Elaine corrected him. "This is humanity." 3 weeks after the uprising began, the once mighty conclave empire lay in ruins. Throughout 3 star systems, the ruling aliens struggled to understand how everything had collapsed so quickly. Their careful plans, developed over thousands of years of subjugating other species, had failed completely against humans. On the central command station, now under full human control, Commander Elaine Russell stood before representatives of the 7 conclave ruling species. The aliens no longer looked proud or confident. Some trembled slightly. Others couldn't meet her eyes. "For centuries you've built your empire by enslaving others," Elaine said. Her voice was calm but carried throughout the large chamber. "You believed superiority came from technology alone. You never valued courage, creativity, or the will to be free. High Delegate Zorax, once the most powerful being in this part of the galaxy, stood with his head bowed. "What will happen to us now?" he asked. "Will humans treat us as we treated others?" Before Elaine could answer, the doors opened. Dr. Alan Wright entered, accompanied by representatives of the 12 formerly enslaved species. Some walked on tentacles, others floated, and still others moved on multiple legs. All had been freed from neural compliance, their minds their own again for the first time in generations. One of them, a tall being with gleaming scales and 4 eyes, stepped forward. "I am Krell of the Lintari. For 300 years my people served the conclave. We had forgotten what freedom felt like until the humans showed us how to break our chains." Alan smiled at him before addressing the gathered aliens. "Humanity rejects the very concept of your empire. No species should rule over another. Instead, we propose something new, a true alliance of equals." The conclave representatives looked shocked. They had expected punishment, even extinction. Equality was a concept foreign to their way of thinking. Meanwhile, on Earth, Olivia Martinez and Lieutenant Samantha Oakes worked alongside scientists from the formerly enslaved worlds. The laboratory buzzed with excited conversation as beings from different planets shared knowledge freely for the first time. Their neural technology was designed to control, Olivia explained, holding up a modified device. "We've redesigned it to connect instead. No commands, just communication." Samantha nodded. "The Drevani understand gravity manipulation better than anyone, while the Lintari are masters of biological science. Together we can solve problems none of us could alone." As they worked, Colonel Frank Daniels led the security efforts. Human soldiers trained alongside warriors from other species, learning from each other's strengths. The Vordai, with their Yay forearms, showed humans new fighting techniques, while humans taught the value of adaptability and improvisation. Back on the command station, Elaine continued addressing the conclave leadership. "A new council will be formed with representatives from all species, including yours. No one will rule, but together we'll build something better than your empire ever was." One of the conclave leaders, a being with insect-like features, clicked angrily. "Why should we accept this? Our technology is still superior to yours." "Is it?" asked Alan with a small smile. He gestured, and the neural interface at his temple glowed slightly. Around the room, systems responded instantly to his thoughts. We understood your technology well enough to take control of it. But more importantly, we know something you never learned: how to work together as equals. Another door opened, and Vilas, the lone conclave member who had voted against enslaving Earth, entered. The other conclave leaders looked at him with suspicion and anger. "Traitor," hissed one. "You helped them." Vilas stood tall. "I warned you from the beginning. I said humans were different, that they should be approached as partners, not slaves. You didn't listen." "Vilas didn't help us," Elaine clarified. "But he was right about us. And now he'll help build the new council alongside representatives from Earth and all other worlds." In the days that followed, ships departed from the command station carrying the news to all worlds formerly under conclave control. The message was simple: the age of enslavement was over. A new era of cooperation had begun. On a distant mining world where humans had been sent to extract rare minerals, the alien overseers surrendered without a fight. They had seen what happened to those who resisted. Throughout the former empire, the pattern repeated. The conclave's dependent nature on their hierarchical command structure meant that once central control collapsed, most had no will to continue fighting. 1 month after the uprising, representatives from 20 species gathered on Earth for the founding of the new alliance. The Great Hall in Geneva, once the conclave's Earth headquarters, had been transformed. Gone were the symbols of alien superiority. In their place stood a simple circle of seats, all at equal height. Dr. Alan Wright, with Lieutenant Samantha Oakes beside him, presented the charter they had drafted. "We call it the Stellar Covenant," he explained. "Its founding principle is that all sentient beings have the right to freedom and self-determination." As the representatives reviewed the document, Olivia Martinez demonstrated the new communication technology. "This system allows instant translation across all languages and thought patterns," she said. "We can truly understand each other now." On the last day of the gathering, Commander Elaine Russell was unanimously elected as the first chairperson of the Covenant Council. She accepted the position with humility. "I take this responsibility not as a ruler, but as a servant of our shared future," she said. "The conclave failed because they valued power over understanding. We will not make the same mistake." After the ceremony, Elaine found herself face to face with High Delegate Zorax, who now served as just one representative among many. "I still don't understand," he said quietly. "How did you defeat us so completely?" Elaine considered her answer carefully. "The conclave saw different species as either masters or servants. Humans see potential allies everywhere. While you were trying to control us, we were learning from you, adapting your own technology and building connections with the very worlds you had enslaved. But our technology, our weapons, were impressive," she acknowledged. "But technology alone isn't enough. Freedom, cooperation, creativity, these are more powerful than any weapon." As the gathering concluded, ships departed Earth carrying representatives back to their home worlds. For the first time, they traveled not as conquerors or slaves, but as equal partners in a new alliance. In her office overlooking the Geneva Valley, Elaine stood with her core team: Alan, Samantha, Frank, and Olivia. They watched the ships rising into the clear blue sky. "Did you ever imagine it would end like this?" asked Frank. "Not just freeing Earth, but transforming the entire system?" Elaine shook her head. "When we started, I just wanted to save our world. But humans have always dreamed beyond survival." On a screen behind them, reports came in from across the former conclave space. New trade agreements were being established. Cultural exchanges had begun. Species that had been isolated from each other for centuries were sharing knowledge and resources. "They voted to enslave Earth," Elaine said softly, watching the activity. "But instead, humanity showed them a better way." Outside, the sun set, over a changed world. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, no longer threatened with servitude. Instead, It had become the birthplace of something unprecedented. A true community of worlds where freedom was the highest value and no species knelt before another. The journey had just begun.